Hey everybody, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how you can set up a grass brush, which you can use for painting landscapes. It's a pretty easy trick and I think it's going to help you out a lot. So let's go ahead and start by opening up a brand new file. We're going to make this file 1000 pixels by 1000 pixels. I'm using a resolution of 600 pixels per inch, and you also want to make sure that background content is set to transparent. Transparency is very important when you're making a new brush. So I'm going to click Create. And now what I'm going to do is I can pick whatever color I wish, but I'm just going to create a very thin blade, right, using the lasso tool. I'm using the freeform lasso tool, and I'm just creating an enclosed shape. And I will hit Option Delete or Alt Backspace on the PC to fill that red color in. After I deselect it, the next thing I want to do is I want to go to Edit, and I want to go to Define Brush Preset. And when I do that, I can give it a name. I can call this KMS, which is my initials. You can use your initials or whatever you want to call it. I just do that so I can easily find my own brushes. And I'll call this Blade 1. And I'll click OK. And now you can see that the brush tool is active and it's taking along that shape that I've just created. But we're not done yet. The next thing I want to do, and I'm going to switch back to the Move tool, is I'm going to go to a new canvas here. I'll make it 5100 by 3300. This is just going to be a test canvas that I can use to test my brush and play around with it. And I like to use 5100 by 3300. It's a landscape setting, and 600 pixels per inch, and a white background. So if I make a new layer now and activate my brush tool, right now the default setting is not super great. So we're going to have to make some modifications to this brush. Let's go up to where we have the brush options. It's a folder that has a brush icon inside of it. If I click on that, this gives me parameters that I can change to customize the look and feel of this brush. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to brush tip shape. I'm going to rotate this roughly about 80-something degrees. I want it to be mostly vertical, as grass normally is. And I also want to go ahead and adjust the shape. And I'm using an angle of 79, but it's not really, the general shape is what I'm after. Don't worry about the specific numbers here. And then under Shape Dynamics, I want to go ahead and make sure that the control is set to pen pressure. And after that, I'm going to go down to Brush Pose. And under Brush Pose, what I would like to do is I'd like to go ahead and adjust the tilt on the x-axis. And this will make the brush tip change the angle of the brush, which will in turn cause the grass to not always stack up completely vertically. It'll give a little bit of variation to that. And now that I have that, the last tip that I want to share with you is I like to use my tool presets because I have easy access to all my brushes from within this menu. Instead of going to the main menu here and having to scroll through my entire laundry list of brushes, which you can do by the way, I prefer to actually make a tool preset. So I will go to the gearbox and I will choose New Tool Preset, and I will type in a name. I'll just call this KMS Grass Fun, and optionally I can choose new color. Now, if you're using tool presets for the first time, you're going to get a dialog box that pops up that says, hey, would you rather save this into the brushes panel? And I will choose no, and I will choose to go ahead and save it as the tool preset. I've already done that earlier in my Photoshop configuration, so it's not giving me that prompt. So now that I have this brush, let's go ahead and test it out. I'm going to go ahead and kind of make some wheat fields here. And the thing that I do when I'm using a brush like this, and I'll go ahead and close this out, is that I want to make sure that I have my hands on the left and right bracket key, only because I want to be able to vary the size of my stroke, and I'm making vertical strokes here. I'm not making any horizontal strokes. I'm kind of mimicking grass, and you can see that there's a slight tilt that's being added to the brush. And the left bracket key will make my brush smaller, so I can have smaller strands or stalks. and the right bracket key will make the stalks thicker. Now, the danger here is just to settle on one color, and I think that's a big mistake. While this is actually good for kind of conveying the idea of grass, it does not have any depth. And the way we can convey depth is by alternating the colors. And on the same layer here, I'm just going to pick a yellow, and I'll make the brush just a little bit bigger so you can see some stalks above others. It's a great arm workout. I'll make the brushes even smaller. And then I'm going to go somewhat darker. And this will mimic what you would normally see if you were staring at a grassy field. And I'm just going to go ahead and make some strands taller, other strands smaller. Maybe this is the edge of the wheat field. And I'll even include some black in there. It gives me enough contrast. And again, making some of the stuff bigger and smaller. Great arm workout. All right, so once you have that in place, let's go ahead and add some ground. And I'm gonna make a new layer for that. Shift, Command, Option N will make a brand new layer. And I'll just start off by using my lasso tool, and I'll just create a small clearing like this, make an enclosed shape. And why not? I'll just go ahead and use this dark brown. Now the problem with this is that it's very obvious that the ground is very flat and the grass doesn't really feel like it's anchored to the ground. So one way that we can maybe mitigate some of this is we can vary the color of the ground, but we can also soften this hard edge. This hard edge is really prominent, and it's really kind of crushing the depth that we were trying to achieve with this. So I'm going to go back to the brush tool, and this time I'm going to scroll up to my soft round pressure opacity brush. I'm going to make sure it's set to a large value, somewhere it's around 300-ish is good. And I'll just come back in and I'll just soften those edges, right? And then while I'm at it, what I can do is I can go in with a darker value here and kind of generally paint. Now, of course, the bottom edge here looks very harsh, and maybe I don't care about that. Maybe I'll just have a field that looks something like this. So you can always adjust that as needed depending upon what you're trying to do. But in this particular technique, it's really about how do you make grass, how do you work smart. Something else you can also do, another little pro tip, on the grass layer that you have, if you duplicate that layer by hitting Command J or Control J on the PC, and you hit your transform tool and you go ahead and flip it horizontally, you can double up the grass. Now, what I would recommend is, instead of just making it super obvious that you're using a duplicate, I would scale it down and I would add a little bit of skew. The idea is you don't want to make it look like you used a brush. And so now I've got some extra thickness applied. And then just for grins and giggles, if I go back to my grass brush, I can come back in and make some really thick stalks. This kind of, gives us the idea that, we've got something that's actually closer to the viewer. And now we have something that has some density. And in an upcoming video, I'm going to use this brush and I'm going to go ahead and paint a landscape. So stick around for that. As always, I appreciate the support. Thank you so much for watching these videos, and I hope you found this to be useful. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or comments about what I've just shown here. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.